When you find a real estate platform that aligns everyone in the entire company financially by making us real estate agents owners, so when the average agent wins, everyone wins, that's the secret to success. And when you surround yourself with like-minded entrepreneurial people who absolutely love what they do, they love serving people, they love God and life, and you put yourself in an environment of high energy, high producing, positive people every day, you can't help but succeed in business and life. We are changing the real estate industry and changing real estate agents' lives. Welcome to the Financial Freedom Forever podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Financial Freedom Forever podcast. Today, I'm super excited to introduce to you guys Dustin Brohm from Salt Lake City, Utah. How you doing today, Dustin?
Doing awesome. How are you doing, Andre?
Doing fantastic. Really looking forward to kind of hearing your story. I know you're an influencer at our company and have your own podcast called Massive Agent Podcast. I heard it's one of the most popular one in real estate. So congratulations on that. And
thank you.
Yeah, I know you're a business owner, team leader, coach, mentor. I know your podcast was on Inman Innovator of the Year finalist. So that's pretty awesome. Congratulations on that as well.
Thank you.
I understand you spoke on stage at Gary Vaynerchuk's Agent 2021, EXPCon, Inman Connect, Sales Mastery, HousingWire, and your team in Utah sold over you have over 320 agents in 37 states and 3 countries. So that's pretty impressive, and looking forward to kind of hear how you got there and learn more about your story, buddy.
Thanks, Andre. I appreciate you having me on. I'm honored. Hearing all of that's kind of crazy because so much has happened just in the last 6 years or so. Just by making a decision one day to speak to the internet, launching a podcast and, figuring it out from there. So yeah, I'm just an average guy. Like in a lot of ways, I think I'm a below average, entrepreneur, but I'm also stubborn and determined and ambitious. And when you just do something long enough, you get good at it. And people tune in and you find the right people. I've repelled a lot of people, I'm sure, with my personality type and the way I talk and all that, and that's fine. But, over time you find your tribe and your tribe finds you. And it's pretty cool what can happen when you stay consistent with something like podcasting and like video on social and business in general.
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell us your real estate story. I mean, this is really the first time that we've gotten together, so I'm excited to kind of hear where you're from and how'd you get to where you are now.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah. Born and raised here. Aside from a couple semesters of college outside of Utah, I've lived here my entire life. And what's cool is I travel a lot now, and every time I do, I'm reminded just what a great place Salt Lake City is to live and to raise a family. I'm just very blessed and fortunate. And part of that was, growing up, Salt Lake was just kind of like, it was a little city, right? And I got into real estate in January 2011. Yeah, January 2011. So almost 13 years ago. And there were short sales and bank-owned properties everywhere. Back in 2011. So this was just after the Great Recession. And prior to real estate, I had never done anything on my own. Like I'd always had entrepreneurial tendencies, lemonade stands as a kid, like we had fruit trees in the backyard when I was growing up. So I'd go grab plums and pears and crap and throw them in bags and sell those. So like I always had entrepreneurial tendencies, but I'd always just worked jobs. And if I'm being honest, I worked these dead end dude jobs that 20 something dudes work, like detailing cars and debt collecting and some construction here and there. But I got into real estate because of Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. Originally, I thought, Andre, that I was going to flip houses and make $1 million a month because I saw it on A&E. And they do it in 30 minutes, by the way. But in all seriousness, that it showed me that I could, for once, real estate could be that thing that could give me control of my life and my future. Now I was as green as it gets. I didn't know crap about anything. I just knew that real estate sounded good and looked good. And I'd heard that millionaires are made in real estate. Like that's literally all I knew. Read Rich Dad Poor Dad, decide I'm going to become a flipper. I join a real estate investor association here locally, and the president happens to be a real estate broker. And I asked him one day, I'm like, look, like I've done one flip kind of, what do I need to do to really be successful in real estate? And he's like, well, you should probably get your license. It gives you so many more options, access to the MLS and, commission and all the stuff. Right. So I'm like, okay, I'll get my license. And I ended up joining his brokerage. And I stayed there for 7.5 years because it was cheap, right? It was just inexpensive to do transactions there. And I didn't know anything different.
Right.
But pretty quickly I realized, okay, real estate investing for me, where I was at the time, not as easy as it looks on TV. So it takes more time, more effort. And I had a lot of work to do personally. And because I had my license, someone in my broker's office referred me a client to work with, and I helped them purchase a short sale property. And I think my first commission check was like $1,100 or $1,200. I need to go back and look this up. But I remember seeing it, and instead of like, okay, that's all I get for all this work, it was, holy crap, there's actually a paycheck in real estate.
Right.
And so it was validation for me. And so I'm like, okay, maybe I should focus on being a traditional realtor and helping buyers and sellers. So I did, because there was an actual paycheck.
Right.
I stumbled through that for a while, following somebody that had a very different personality than me. My mentor at the time, amazing human, loved the guy, but very much extroverted, very much loved to chase people down. I remember one time going to the grocery store with this guy, and he would go up to someone in the produce section while they're measuring and weighing cucumbers and ask them if they know anyone who needs to buy or sell real estate. And I remember watching this, and I'm like, this is awful. Like it's just not me. It was totally him, but it's not me. And I'm like, is this really all there is? At the time, Andre, I thought this is what realtors did. I didn't know other options to get business. All I saw from our profession was what my mentor was doing and how he did things. But because I was following someone else's playbook for building my business, I didn't do so well. Like I was starving. I wasn't paying the bills, and I just got married at the time. We were having our first kid, and I remember out of desperation going to Google and searching how to get real estate leads, because I could not pay my bills following my mentor's playbook. I couldn't do the cold calling. I did the door knocking for 2 years in snowstorms, in rainstorms, which actually worked better because people take pity on you and
right.
snowing outside. So there's a little hack for you, but didn't really lead to any business. I think I got one listing from door knocking in 2 years. It just wasn't clicking for me until I searched Google for how to get real estate leads. And that opened my eyes and my mind to this concept of attraction marketing, content marketing,
okay,
where I could do a video or write a blog post or put some piece of content, something valuable out there that people would consume. And then they would reach out to me and hire me, which was a completely different, that was a total 180 from what I was taught, that I need to go chase people down, convince them somehow to take a meeting with me, or that I'm the best agent in Salt Lake, which I did not believe, never was. So I liked the concept of attraction marketing. So I really went deep into that. I started blogging, which led to videos, which led to social media, which led to Facebook ads. Because anyone who's done content, you know that creating the video or writing the blog post or whatever it is, that's step one. Right. Then you have to get people to know about it. You have to get people to actually see it. So there's a lot more work there. And that started to pay off. I'd say 4 months in, I got my first client from my blogging efforts, and that validated everything. And I was like, okay, if I can do this once, I can, this will work. Like I'm going to be a online marketer with a real estate license.
Right.
And
absolutely
making that little switch in my mind changed everything for me, because rather than being an agent who had to do some marketing from time to time, who tolerated marketing, I was a marketer who sells homes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put all my time and effort into online marketing and social media, and I got really good at it. And because I loved it, it just made sense to me. I could do it. And as that started to click, and as I started to sell some more homes, I'm like, wait, there's other agents that are just a step or two behind me that haven't figured this out yet. And as a marketer with a real estate license, I wanted to do everything. I wanted a YouTube channel and a podcast and all the stuff. So one day, January 1st, 2018, I was walking my dog at night listening to another podcast, and something about it made me realize a podcast is not as hard as I was making it seem. I need to launch a podcast for real estate agents to speak to agents who were just a step or two behind me.
Right.
And so I did. I chose a name. I called it the Massive Agent Podcast. I remember laughing out loud. Literally, I even remember the exact place I was at in my neighborhood when I was walking my dog. I remember the exact corner of Athleen and Primavera when I thought Massive Agent, and I laughed out loud thinking it was so stupid. But in that a split second later, I was like, that's the name. I'm going to call it the Massive Agent Podcast and just run with it and do a podcast every week. And so I did. And with that decision right there, I realized that this industry needs more assistance, right?
Mm-hmm.
The agents need help growing their business. Because a lot of times brokers they don't know how to do it themselves because they did it 20 years prior. And, you know, they're like, well, just make phone calls like that. That's always the solution. Just make more calls. Just, okay. Yes, that works. But what else? What if that's not your style? What if that's not something you can do consistently? Which for me, it wasn't.
Right.
So I realized, okay, I'm gonna keep selling houses, but talk to agents, and that will not only help them and make an impact, but I can get referrals. And that happened. Then I kind of got burned out, and I'm like, I hate that I have to text my wife at 5:45 p.m. and say, you know what? I'm stuck in traffic. They want to see another house. Oh, they want to make an offer, which was good news. My clients want to make an offer, but it felt like bad news because I had to tell my wife, I'm not going to make it home for dinner.
Right. Again.
And so after enough of that, and I wasn't selling that many houses, like, you know, just slightly above average as an agent, selling a few houses a month. And I realized I don't want this forever. And so when I found the business model of EXP that showed me a path out of sales so that I could build a business still in real estate, but serving other agents and you know, really pouring into them and supporting them, that could help me have the lifestyle and the income that I wanted without being stuck in rush hour traffic showing houses every day. You know, I could help others sell a crap load of homes without me personally doing it myself. For some people listening, you may like, why would you ever get out of sales? That's cool. I didn't want that lifestyle forever.
Right.
So I made a personal choice that some may agree with, some may not. But I think if agents are honest, they're looking at some point for an exit strategy. How can they get out of sales? Not quit the industry, but just not have to sell homes month after month after month until they die. It's the choice that matters. And so that's what I've really been focused on the last few years, is showing agents that there is a choice, that by doing certain activities, by doing certain things consistently, you can build a business inside this industry that gives you the option of stepping out of sales if you choose to, because not everyone wants to step out of sales. There's agents that love showing houses and making offers and all of that. Great, lean into it. But wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to? That if you decided to take a month off and go to Europe with your family, that there was more money in the account when you came back and homes were sold and you didn't even know who the clients were.
Right.
That's what I wanted, and that's what I've built, and that's what I help agents build now. So, you know, it's really I'd say that's the Cliff's Notes, but it's not. That's the full story there. But it's been quite a journey from struggling solo agent who had to borrow coupons to get baby formula because we couldn't afford it, to now helping other agents build giant teams and giant businesses. It's crazy.
I love your story, Dustin, and thanks for sharing it. First, I want to tell all our listeners. I see we have Yvonne and Eric and Rob and Peter, Imperdeep, and anyone else. If you want to ask any questions for Dustin, please definitely put it in the private chat or in the comment section there, and then I can ask Dustin directly. But I think love your story, Dustin, because I think a lot of people listening can really relate as far as especially getting started in the business. I think I sold 7 houses my first year, 10 the second year. I worked a blue collar job from 4 in the afternoon to midnight and sold real estate all day up till 4 o'clock. I was just trying to burn the candle at both ends to get your business going. And it's tough. That's why a lot of people don't make it the first few years. But if you get past those first few years, then you're normally a lifer. But I think people can really relate to your grit, right? You're doing what had to be done. But at some point, I think at some point for all real estate agents, if you've been doing this long enough and hard enough, at some point your mind goes a little bit away from active income to looking for that passive income, right? You were a flipper or started flipping and having investment properties, and you wanted passive income, right? That's
yep.
So I appreciate you kind of telling us the entire background. It's pretty cool. So tell us with I'll switch gears just a little bit because I was when I first got. I've been doing this for 32 years, so I was starting a phone book. I was cold calling, door knocking, doing the same things like your broker was telling you, and just the grit of getting stuff done, got the business going, and finally started getting referrals and all that. Never a big social media person myself. What do you tell people that are nervous about starting a podcast or getting on social? They're not, they've been doing real estate 10, 15 years, or maybe they're brand new, but they're not into social media as much as they know they should be. How did you get started, and what would you tell those people?
That's such a good question. And I'm going to dive deep on this because it's important, and I'm going to step on some toes here with some hard truth that a lot of people just don't like. They don't want to accept it. This is not 1982. Okay? We now live in a world where all of the people that you want to hire you are on Instagram all day. They're on TikTok. They're watching YouTube. They're on Facebook all the time. Like, that's where the eyeballs are. Social media is the internet for the most part. That's where the attention is. So if you, as a realtor or any salesperson in any industry, any business owner, really, if you want someone to go to your restaurant or to go to you, if you're a chiropractor, or hire you as a real estate agent, people first need to know who the hell you are. They need to know that you exist, right? They need to know of you. So how do you do that in a 2023, 2024 world? Well, you show up in their news feed, right? That's not the only way. The tried and true cold calls, that's all great. That works, but there are other ways now that I believe are much more effective and give you so much more leverage. So look, here's something my mentor first taught me that has stuck with me till this day. Everything works and nothing doesn't. Everything works and nothing doesn't, right? Kind of what do they call that? A double entendre or something? Yeah. Whatever. It all works, but you have to find something that makes the most sense for you, that you enjoy, because no matter what you pick as far as your client attraction strategy, which, by the way, you must have one, whatever you pick, you sure as hell better enjoy it, because you're going to have to do it for a long time. You're going to have to do it long enough to win. And if you hate it, if it's a grind, if it's brutal, if it's torture to you, you're going to give up too soon. And I know, because I gave up too soon on way too many things, right? Looking for the new shiny object, thinking that that'll get me listings in 30 days. Well, nothing does, but yet some things do, right? You can't expect it, but it happens. Anyways, so your clients are already on the internet. If you don't show up in their news feed, your competitors are.
Right.
Simple as that. Your competitors are showing up in your family's newsfeed, in your second cousin's newsfeed, in your neighborhood friend's newsfeed. They are consuming content from other real estate agents multiple times a day, every single day. So if you don't show up there, they forget about you. Just because you know someone, you can't expect that they remember you're in real estate, because again, they're being bombarded by other realtors all the time. And those realtors, when they show up in the newsfeed, are building credibility in the eyes of your neighbor. So it just doesn't make any sense why you would opt out of being seen in the place where everyone's looking. Now, there's a bunch of different ways to do that, and different styles and different formats and different platforms, right?
Yep.
There's all sorts of different ones, but you have to be there. What's crazy is I think when I first got started podcasting almost 6 years ago, I thought it was too late. I thought I'd missed the boat on podcasting. Well, I'll tell you what, the boat is still at the dock.
Right.
The YouTube boat is still at the dock. It hasn't left yet. And YouTube is very well established, but it's such an amazing opportunity even still. Why? Because most people quit. Most people stop doing it after a month or 2 months or 3 months. They quit. How many people do you know that have started a podcast and quit? Probably a lot, right? So we control whether or not we endure that. Like it's fully up to me how often I keep posting the videos, how often I record the podcast and publish it, how often I do this and do that, right? I control whether or not those activities get done. And when you do brand building and awareness building activities, you're going to build a brand and you're going to build awareness. So when I started my podcast, I never thought that we'd hit 1 million downloads. And we're on track to hit 1 million downloads sometime in the next 3 weeks.
Oh, fantastic.
It's crazy.
Right.
But it doesn't surprise me now, but I never would have thought that in the beginning. It wasn't even a goal. My goal was, I'm going to do this thing, this podcast, and I'm going to do it every week. That's just what I'm going to do. And one day I woke up and I'm like, holy crap, I have people listening. I have thousands of agents listening because I get messages. If I go to an event, I get recognized. People like, hey, I love your show. That's crazy to me because I think I'm just a dude with flaws, and I've just been stubborn enough to keep going. So
consistency is the key, I think, right?
But it's not the sexy answer.
Right. I know.
And I'm sure someone has tuned out already because they're like, oh, well, just tell me, like, what's the one secret? I already did. I just gave you the damn secret. It's keep doing the thing as long as it takes to win. Because every time you post a video, even if it sucks, you're practicing.
That's right.
I just posted an Instagram reel yesterday where I showed the very first real estate video I ever recorded 10 years ago. I look like I'm 13 years old. I have my name tag on from my previous brokerage. I'm wearing a button-up shirt that I would never be caught dead in today. I'm a t-shirt and backwards hat guy. Like that's just me now. But and I was reading a script that was slightly off the side of the camera, and it was just bad. And then I fast forwarded to what my speaking opportunities and the podcast and people I've met, like all this stuff, right? So no matter what you do, you need to just accept the fact that you're going to suck for a while.
Right.
You're going to suck at any new thing that you do. You can't start something you've never done before and be great at it. How has that ever been the case for you in anything ever in your life? Right. It's absurd to think that, well, I recorded 3 videos and they didn't go viral, or it was really uncomfortable. I didn't get any business from it, so I guess social media is not my thing. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it just takes time and consistency on anything that you do. Absolutely.
Yes.
How long did it take for you to really start getting some followers and really feel like, hey, this is starting to work? I'm getting some business from this. Was it a month? Was it 6 months? Was it 3 years? I mean, what was it for you?
the first validation that I got that I was on the right path was when I completely just pushed cold calling and door knocking and direct mail and all the stuff that I was trying. I pushed all that aside and started a blog, started writing articles in hopes that people would find them through a Google search, go to my website. I would become credible to them. I'd teach them something and they'd hire me, right? And about 4 months later, I got my first client who called me and they said, hey, we saw your website. We watched a few of your videos. We need to buy our first house. You know, how do we get started? And I remember my first thought was, and I almost said this to them. I was like, well, okay. So like I'm interviewing, right? Like how many other agents are you interviewing? I'm just one of them, right? Which I was happy about. But then I realized, wait a minute, they're asking me how to get started. And I'm like, so are you guys ready to go? Like I said something so stupid because I was dumbfounded. I'm just
Right.
like, really? You know, that was the spirit of what I said. It was like, are you sure? And I realized they had already made up their mind before we spoke that they were hiring me to help them buy their first house. That validated everything for me and it showed me the power of it. And so I think it took another couple months after that to get my second client. That's when it all started to click. When I started my podcast, the Massive Agent Podcast for agents, I had already had a little bit of a following through a Facebook group that I started with a few others. So I had a little bit of a presence in our industry with other agents, and from Snapchat, I had agents following me from Snapchat because I wrote an article for Inman in, I think it was 2017, about why I was using Snapchat for real estate. And I had, I think 3,000 agents follow me in the 2 or 3 days after that article came out because they included my Snap code, my little QR code from Snapchat back in the day. They included that in the article. And so I had, all of a sudden, my audience was now all real estate agents. So I'm like, I better talk to the agents about what I'm doing. And here I'm running this Facebook ad, and here's this Canva hack that I learned, and, you know, all this stuff. So I had a little bit of a following, and I launched the podcast, and, you know, I had 1,000 or 2,000 downloads in the first month, I believe. And it just kind of took off from there. There's ups and downs, of course,
Sure.
You know, some peaks and valleys, but I started getting referrals. I think what really clicked with me, Andre, was I realized it was okay to be me.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I was building an audience was because some people, not all people, some people liked my no BS approach. They liked the way that I said things without sugarcoating. They liked that I'm not worried about being professional, that I'm just this guy who has an opinion and some knowledge and perspective that's worth, you know, that's worth something, and that I shared it in my own unique way. That really validated that approach, which was great because I didn't know how to do anything else.
Right.
Like, you know, I don't know how to be anyone else. So that was great. And I just realized, okay, it's time to double down. Like, it's okay to be me. It's okay for me to talk the way I talk. It's okay for me to swear every once in a while. It's okay for me to do that, knowing I'm going to repel some people, but attract the right people. And it's crazy. So within the first few months, I knew it was working of launching the podcast. And then I made a brokerage change. I went to EXP. I also launched a coaching program because I'm thinking, okay, I have these people listening to the show. Like, how else can I impact them? Like, the show is great, but that's just once a week. How can I impact them and help them on a daily basis? How can we work together? And so that's why I launched a coaching group and joined EXP all within a couple months of each other.
And when was that? When did you join EXP? And let's talk about that a little bit. And, you know, where were you before, and how have things changed since making that change?
So I launched the Massive Agent Podcast January of 2018. I went to EXP May of 2018. So it's been, this May will be 6 years at EXP. Prior to that, I was at Equity Real Estate, which in Utah has a very big presence. It's a flat fee brokerage for agents. So it was only $500 per transaction. and there was no monthly fees whatsoever. And I got .loop premium and they left me alone. Look, I didn't know any different. My broker was like, hey, you should get your license. And oh, by the way, like I have a brokerage, you should just join mine because it's not going to cost you any extra. You know, he's like, it's great for investors at this brokerage. So I'm like, okay. And I see all these agents at Coldwell Banker and Keller Williams and C21 and, you know, all these places. And I'm like, you guys split your commission? Like why would you do that? Why would you give 30% of your commission or more to the brokerage when I'm only paying $500?
Right.
Like, this doesn't make any sense. Well, I also couldn't do math very well, and I wasn't a big top producer guy. I mean, $500 per deal with no cap eventually becomes a lot, right? If you're selling a bunch of houses, you sell more than, you know, 32 houses or whatever, and, you know, you're up to like 16,000 ish.
Right.
So I'm the one that couldn't do math very well, but it took me a year of watching some of my other friends who went to EXP before me, watching them and their journey and their experience. I liked the business model of it, but I couldn't get past the 80-20 split because I'm like, wait, they're going to take 20% of my money from the deals I close right now. At my current brokerage, I hold on to most of it right now. And I know that there's a cap and all this stuff, but like I was just thinking short term about how do I hold on to most of my money. And I wasn't considering the other income streams. I definitely wasn't considering the proximity that I would have to people who would become mentors and business partners that could help me build so much bigger than I ever thought possible or ever could by myself. I didn't realize that till a couple of years into EXP. So I watched my friend Shannon Milligan in Richmond, Virginia. I'd be like, hey, how's EXP? She's like, hey, they just gave me like, you know, $500 worth of stock or 100 shares of stock or whatever, for selling a house. And I'm like, my brokerage doesn't have stock. That's interesting. And one thing after another. And I'm like, okay, holy crap. I guess there's a difference between the cost of doing a transaction and the value a brokerage provides. But that paradigm shift took me about a year. And then I saw the value that EXP provided to me and what it would allow me to do. That because at that time, I was just going to keep selling houses myself. I'm like, if I'm going to be doing that, I may as well do it over there where they give me stock. And if I attract other agents and help them be successful, I get a piece of the company's revenue. That's cool. All the brokers doesn't have that. So I started to see these things and I'm like, that's valuable. I want that. That makes sense. I'm going to do that. And so very quickly, I realized that EXP was everything that I thought it would be financially. Because I joined for the money at the time where I was at mentally. I joined for the money. I saw I could make more money and have more streams of income. I realized pretty quick that's absolutely the case. It's actually better than I thought, and it COVID really helped EXP explode, and it helped my team really explode as well. So because of COVID and the way our company's positioned as a virtual brokerage with very little overhead and very little cost to agents out of pocket, it just became it was a great option, but it became so much more attractive when everyone else's offices were shut.
Right.
And they were still paying $1,200 a month for their damn desk fee. So I realized that, okay, this happened so much faster than I thought. But it was because of the people that became my business partners that I didn't even know when I first joined. The people that became my business partners and mentors, people that I couldn't afford to hire, even if they were hireable, which my mentor Clayton is not. He's now a business partner and a friend, and I can get on his calendar all the time. Like we have a couple calls later today. He's helping me help my agents to build our business together. And because of that, it's so incredible how fast things can go and how impactful a business model like ours is on entrepreneurial agents. That's the thing. EXP is not for everybody. It's not. But it is absolutely for entrepreneurial agents who want to build a business that they control and that can scale and that gives them options. There's no better place. And that's why I'm still here almost 6 years later.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you talk about, your business partners and the collaboration. Any other company that I've been at, your friends will help you out a little bit, but they don't give you, here's my luxury listing presentation that I worked 3 years to get up and running. Here, you can just have it. It's a whole different world when you're in a company where everyone has. It's hard to describe without, from the outside, looking in. But once you get plugged in and you start experiencing it, and you have people that bend over backwards, the ones that are your personal partners, but then like you and I, we're not partners, we are in the same group, but anything that when I asked you if you'd be on my podcast, you're like, yeah, sure. Anything to help you out. And I'm on calls, training calls, helping other agents with EXP, and I don't even know who they are. They just reached out and said, hey, can you train my team member up to do X? I know you're doing a great job. It's like, yeah, sure. And we spend an hour helping somebody. But what goes around comes around, and the good Lord blesses it for sure. Collaboration was a huge surprise and benefit that I think most people don't realize until they get here.
Absolutely. And it's one of the biggest things, right? Agents who are new to EXP are blown away that there's so many people like clamoring to help them. And even those who are not directly connected in the business, right? Even those who do not have a direct vested financial interest in seeing their success, which that dynamic is insanely powerful in and of itself. But like you and I are not connected in the business at all, except for we're all shareholders of the company together.
Right.
But beyond that, like we're not connected. And happy to jump on this call, happy to help your people. And I'm sure you do the same with mine, because EXP attracts certain people. It attracts collaborative people. And what's really cool is EXP, I believe they were the first company that made it so other agents are not competition anymore. They're potential partners. And so every new company that comes out is taking that ball and running with it, which is really cool. Like that's so good for the industry that new agents to the company are blown away that they can go into a workplace group and they're like, here's all these listing presentations that they can just take and make their own.
Right.
And they're like, these people, why are they doing this? Like I had a conversation a couple weeks ago with an agent that was like, why are they doing this? Like, are they insane? Like, why are they helping strangers? I'm like, why wouldn't they? Like, we're all partners and we're all collaborative here. Like it's no skin off my back. It doesn't cost me anything. I lose nothing if I give someone all of my stuff. Like that's good for everybody. And that thinking is just in the DNA of this company. And it's really powerful. And it's very underestimated.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you, what advice would you give someone? They're happy where they are, they have a good business. We can always do better, but are kind of comfortable, and haven't taken a deep dive because they're happy. They probably got a bunch of phone calls, but keep telling, say, no, I'm happy where I'm at, not looking to make a move. What would you share with someone if they were, entrepreneur, especially if they're entrepreneur minded?
They need to ask themselves a very serious question and be very honest with the answer to it. They need to ask, will they be happy 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if they're doing the same thing that they are today in the same place? And for most people, the answer is no. They want something different. They want to grow. They want to get past just the place they're at. And some people aren't, and that's fine. But most agents want to have more options. They want to get bigger. They want to have a business. They want to have leverage. They want to have a team or whatever. And so when you look at the seat that your butt is in, are you in the vehicle that's going to get you to what you want? And most people are just settling for good because things are good. Like I'm fine, right? I'm totally fine. Well, what if it could be freaking awesome? So what do you want? And this is where far too many agents have forgotten how to think like a kid. They've forgotten how to dream. And they think their goal is to sell more houses. Now, I'm not saying that that's the wrong goal, but it's also incomplete, right? If your goal is just to sell more houses, if you're selling 50 houses a year and then next year you're successful and you double it to 100 sales, what else have you doubled? How much time you're working? How much time you're spending away from your family and your loved ones and your friends?
Right.
So if you don't do anything different, if you don't build leverage for yourself, you're just doubling your work too. Is that really what you want? And then people are like, no, of course not. They want the income. They don't want the extra work. So, okay, how do you do that? Well, a business. Okay, well, is your broker going to show you how to get out of sales? Is your broker going to teach you how to get out of sales? And if the answer is always no, because there's very few companies, and even within the right companies, there's a lot of brokers that don't know how to do that themselves, right? But that's why you need a company where the culture is let's empower you to build a business, however you want to do it, and then here's a bunch of people that have already done it, who are now financially aligned with you, and they win when you're successful doing what they did, and so they're going to help you. I think agents need to be honest about what they want their life to look like 5 years from now. And I think when they're really honest, they're going to realize their butt is in a seat that's in the wrong vehicle. And they need to get in a different vehicle that can actually get them to where they want to go. I talk to agents all the time. They're like, yeah, I'd love to not have to sell houses anymore. I'm like, okay, well, what do you need to do? And like, can you do that where you're at? Most of the time, no, because no one would ever tell them, because these traditional brokerages and the mentality of the people in them, it's not just the brokerages, it's the mentality of certain people that it's a hamster wheel, right? Your broker just wants you to keep selling home after home after home. The moment you talk about getting out of sales, you're threatening their livelihood. So why the hell would they help you do that? It's not built into their business model.
Right.
Well, it's built into ours, and it's built into, that's our culture. So if you want to be in a place where you have a business, maybe that's a traditional team, maybe it's a revenue share based team like I've done, maybe it's some other cool version. There's someone else here that's done it that you could partner with that will show you every step of the way how to do the thing, so you're not reinventing the wheel, because they're going to win financially when you are successful and win financially. And that's not happening at other brokerages. It's just not. Yeah.
Leverage is a beautiful thing. And that's what it gives you, is leverage. And it's not just your everyday income, it's generational wealth,
Yes.
What you and I have built on the passive income side, if the good Lord took us home today, it's willable to our family, our kids, our grandkids, or whoever we want to will it to. And that's just not, when you stop selling houses and you stop making, your active income, the money stops. And with our model, there's multiple streams of income, and it can continue to grow. So I'm excited to see what your business is going to look like in the future. And I really appreciate your time today. Just a couple other quick questions, because I know you got to jump off and you got to train your team this afternoon. If you could do it all over again, joining EXP, Dustin, what would you do differently?
Specifically joining EXP, I would have done it sooner, but everybody says that. So that's the easy answer. I would have really taken the opportunity much more seriously, because I didn't for a while. And honestly, when my mentor Clayton, he's like my sponsor's sponsor, he started reaching out to me, and he's like, hey, like, I understand you have a podcast, you have a following, like you have influence, and you have a good personality. Like, there's so much we could do. Let me help you. And I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Like, he was bugging me, because I was, like I said, I'm a very flawed individual. And where I was at the time, I'm like, who is this person? until I learned who this person was. And I'm like, wait a minute, he works how many hours a month? And like this guy has 50 agents and staff. They sell, 100 million plus in sales, and he works a couple hours a month because he owns the business. And I'm like, wait a minute, I want that. So you're telling me this person is beating down my door trying to help me and I'm not letting him help me? Stupid. And so I would have been much more receptive to that. I didn't get it. So I would get it, earlier. I would work harder on the specific things and prioritize certain things more than I have. But at the same time, like, we're all running our race, had I joined EXP a year prior, I don't know if I would have stuck around, right? Because back then onboarding was a mess. Like, right. It didn't have half the services or the features that it has today. The leadership is not what it was today. Like, it was still great, but a lot of flaws. And a year prior, I don't think mentally I was in the place where I would have stuck with it, where I would have actually seen the opportunity. So things happen for a reason. So I don't regret it. It's, but yeah, it'd be nice to have joined a year prior and, done some more income producing activities during that time.
Yeah, that's what most people say. I mean, they would have joined definitely sooner, or did take as much time to, look at it and take 6, 12, 18 months to do their due diligence because they were checking it out in between.
Yeah.
Being busy selling houses. Yeah.
People know pretty quick that they want to do it, but then we come up with excuses of why not, or why not now.
Right.
Right. And that's super common. I did that. I was like, well, that's great. I'm going to do that thing. I'm going to go to EXP, but not right now. Like maybe in a few months, or after the new year, or whatever, after I close these transactions. And there's always a reason to do it later. But those that get out of their own way the fastest win the biggest. Mm-hmm. They just do. And I learned that. I've learned that many times in my life, actually, that the faster you get out of your own way and you just do the thing that you should be doing anyways, the faster you're going to get results and the more fulfilling your life's going to be. Yeah. And if they'll just sit down with somebody that knows what you're talking about, like yourself or myself, and let us help them do the math, they'll figure out pretty quickly that it'll be financially irresponsible of them to keep doing what they're doing at their current place of business, when they could do the same thing at EXP and be building generational wealth and ownership for their family that they're not doing where they're at. It's so true. But you and I know this because the door cracked open and we went through it. Yep. Right. There's so many people that the door is cracked open. They looked inside. They're like, that looks cool, but I don't know. And then there's others that, for whatever reason, won't even look inside the door because they've already made their mind up about what this is. Right. And it's just sad. Like, I shudder to think of where I would be if I would even still be in real estate at all. If I'm being honest, I don't know if I would have survived had I not come to EXP and linked up with the people who I'm connected to in the business right now, the mentors that I have, the friends that I have, the agent partners that I have. I don't know where I'd be. I don't know financially where we'd be. So it's just been such a blessing. Making big, if everyone wants big, drastic change and improvement in their life, big, drastic growth. But in order to do that, you have to make big, bold decisions. That's right. You can't just sit in the same place and all of a sudden, boom, something big just happened, right? Stuff does not fall into your lap. It doesn't happen. You have to move your lap to where you can actually make something happen. If you want big growth, if you want big results, you have to make a big, bold decision that kicks the first domino. There's no way around that. There's just not. Yeah, that's great advice. My last question, Dustin, I'll let you go. If you're a movie watcher or a book reader, what's the best movie or book that you would like to recommend to our listeners? Tron Legacy, I believe, is the best movie ever made. Okay. Tron. That's actually my serious answer, but it makes no sense in the context of this conversation at all. I just think Tron is awesome. But Rich Dad Poor Dad's great. Average Sucks by Michael Burnoff is a great book. It's really about mindset and how we make stuff harder than it has to be. We put limitations on ourselves that don't need to be there. We can choose for them not to be there, but we have to be aware of them first. So Average Sucks is a great book. I really like Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, which is more mindset stuff around money and wealth and just a different way of thinking. Stuff like what happens between your ears is the root of everything that you get in your life on the outside, right? All like the actual tangible results, those are the fruits, right? But they were grown from the roots of the tree that is happening in your mind. So agents need to focus on mindset and personal development and all of that, because if you think that if you're selling 15 houses a year right now and you're like, I'm going to start making $1 million a year, how the hell are you going to do that? If you're the same, your financial thermostat is set to whatever 15 sales a year is, right? Let's call it $70,000, whatever. That's how you're wired. So if you want to become the type of person who can make 7 figures in a year, you have a lot of work to do on yourself to become a different, more upgraded version of yourself. It's not just about tactics and strategies and magical Facebook ads. Like, right. I used to think that it was all about tactics. Those things help. They move the needle a little bit, but you're never going to make $1 million a year if you are a $70,000 a year thinker. If you believe that that's all you're worth, if you're good with that, you're never going to make $1 million a year. You have to become the person who expects to make $1 million a year. That's just who you are at your core. And then everything else just effortlessly happens. And it's not that it magically happens, but you're making $70,000 a year effortlessly. Like, that's just who you are.
Right.
But you have to increase your financial thermostat. It's all mindset. It's all mindset.
Yep. Self-development is huge. If you have that kind of a mindset, you want to get better, no matter what level that you're at, there's another level. You're willing and want to surround yourself with other people doing 5, 10, 15 times more than me and you put together. And that's your mindset. Then EXP is definitely probably for you, and you want to check it out, right? If you're
with the right people, EXP with the right people. Unfortunately, we see this all too often. Agents think that the brokerage is going to be like the magic bullet for them. It's not. If you join EXP, but you don't plug in, and if you don't actively plug in, and you're around the campfire and you're consuming and you're asking questions and you're saying, hey, I'm frustrated, I'm stuck, I don't get this, what should I do next? EXP is not for you either, right? No brokerage is going to solve that for you. You got to solve that. That's a you problem. So EXP is fantastic if you join with the right people and you are willing to do the work to meet those people halfway. Right. Then there's no better place in the industry. I believe that at my core. That's why I'm still here. But agents have to do, they've got to become the person that does the work. Yeah, there's no free ride. Nope. Not in this business. Well, hey, thanks, Dustin. I really appreciate you being on today. If anyone wants to reach out to you, just what's the easiest way for them to reach out and ask you questions or jump on your podcast? Yeah, Massive Agent on social media, on YouTube. Shoot me a Instagram DM. Let me know that you listen to this, and if I can be helpful, if I can answer any questions for you or talk you through anything, please reach out. Just shoot me an Instagram on DM. Shoot me an Instagram DM at Massive Agent. And then my podcast, Massive Agent Podcast, wherever fine podcasts are sold. It's free. It's a joke. At least I think it is. But yeah, the nice thing about being an online marketer is you're pretty easy to find at a certain point. So that's awesome. Thanks for joining us on the Financial Freedom Forever podcast today, Dustin. We'll see you. I'm sure one of the next live events. Have a Thanks great day, so much, buddy. Man. Appreciate you having me. All right, buddy. Bye.
Listen to what our business partners are saying about our FFF group.
What I love most about our group, the alignment, the fact that I am aligned with some of the top producers in the world and can pick their brain any second of the day has been absolutely incredible for my business and has taken it to the next level. And I have to account it to alignment.
My favorite thing about the FFF group is just being surrounded by people with the same mentality as us that are striving for something better and building a better long-term plan for themselves.
My favorite part is the support. I can't tell you how many top producers have just kind of dropped what they're doing and supported us in a big way when we've had any kind of curveballs or compliance issues or any kind of new experience. Everyone within our group is just willing to give, and that's probably the best part about our financial freedom group.
I believe if you surround yourself with like-minded people that are doing 10 to 15, 20 times more than me and you put together, we all bring each other up and bring our businesses to the next level and our lives. To learn more about how to partner with us, go to partnerwithandre.com or click the link below and let's have a conversation.